Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today I'm going to talk about watches that I rarely talk about, but I found two watches, nothing new. These are two watches that were put out by Swatch. One is the Swatch Blancpain or Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and the other one is the Breguet, no, not Breguet, but Omega Swatch Speedmaster. These have been discussed, but I want to discuss them now. I mean, I think the one came out in 2022 and the other one came out more recently, but I found them both interesting for a lot of reasons. And I also, too, I really would like to hear your reaction to them as a watch collector. Let me start off. If you're not familiar with either one of them, let me explain what they are and take a look at them. First of all, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms is one of the oldest divers that's around. And these are metal, typical kind of mechanical movement. But this is the different one. Now, it in certain ways, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms with the System 51, which is basically a version of an ETA movement, and it's one, I think it's the Powermatic 80 really is sort of stuffed in there. It runs at 21,600 semi-oscillation per hour. This is 3 hertz, which I happen to like, 90 hours. Now, my understanding was the reason that it's not 28,800 is that they wanted to have a longer reserve on it, and so they moved it from 28,800 to 21,600. That's fine with me. Um, there are two versions. Basically, the one like this one's called the Blue Lagoon. The Blue Lagoon version of the watch has a very small date window at 4:30. I don't know, for some reason I like the date there because it seems that nothing ever happens at 4:30, so I want to put the date there. And instead of being made out of steel or titanium or traditional ceramic, these are made out of what Swatch calls bioceramic, which is a blend of ceramic and biosource materials derived from castor oil. And they create a durable, scratch-resistant case and many different colors. I'll talk about the System 51 a little later, but I just wanted to, the way it's set up, it's the whole movement is made by machine. It's untouched by human hands, okay? So it's all highly automated watch. And this particular model is $400. That for a Blancpain 50 Fathoms, that's a good price for for a retail price. But the question is it worth it? Is it so different that it simply hurts both the name of Blancpain and 50 Fathoms, or is it sort of like an entry drug or a gateway drug to watch collectors? Probably a little of both. Now, the thing that I like about it is that they have all of these different styles based on different oceans. I don't know why that appeals to me, but it does. From left to right, they have the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and then the Pacific Ocean. I don't know why they chose those particular color combinations, but I'm perfectly happy with them. You can see these 3 models all have dates at 4:30. Okay, now they have another one that I like quite a bit called the Ocean of Storms. And the ocean of storms, I thought, what is that? Well, the ocean of storms is a name of an area of the moon. You may remember from your history books, I remember it from memory, is the first man landing on the moon was in a place called the Sea of Tranquility. And the ocean of storms must be somewhat very different. I'm not sure how, but it just sort of seemed like this is pretty cool. Now, the this one too has the date down at 4:30, and it also has, by the way, too, all of them have an exhibition window on the back, and so you can see or see parts of the movement. What's the visible part? There's not a whole lot, but there's some. Now, there's another version that I present as the oceans at the top and the bottom of the Earth, the Arctic Ocean and the Antarctic Ocean. And again, these all have they're different on the back, and you can see the parts of the ocean or some other symbol that they'll have their meaning one thing or the other. In the Arctic Ocean, they have this little wheel that says no radiations. Not sure why that's there, but sort of a nice thing. Also notice they don't have a date window, so they're not showing the date. Center seconds. Now the Antarctic Ocean is sort of a white and gray one, and I don't know what they have this little white ball with the something at the bottom. It says, I think maybe it's SCUBA. I'm not sure. I try to look at it, but anyway. So you have these choices, and they're all about $400. So the price is right on these. That's one thing I would never argue about, and they're all very much in the sort of the style of a diver like the 50 Fathoms. In fact, a lot of the fonts and the style of it looks very much like what you'll find printed on the dial of a 50 Fathoms. That's not part of this Blancpain and Swatch series, even though Swatch owns all of them, both of them. Now, in looking at the System 51, you have an oscillating weight along the edges, and that's sort of nice because you can see more of the movement that way. Unfortunately, the movement is pretty well hidden by the plates. There's a big plate, there's one screw that goes into it, and very few parts. There's the automatic device module, the escapement module, the stem module, and then the base plate with your barrel and the other your wheel train and so forth. Now, the other thing about this that I do like very much is a balance wheel with a Nivacron balance. Now, Nivacron was developed more recently than I realized. I think it was 2019, and it has a titanium base to it. However, it is transitional metal as opposed to the silicon hairsprings that they've been putting in other ones. Now, the irony here is that one of the big advantages of using transitional metals is that in your hairsprings is that you can adjust it with a regulator, but you can't get into the System 51 is tight. It's basically, if it's broken, you might as well toss it. So let's hope it doesn't break. Okay, now that's the other thing I want to point out is that if you this is from the Naked Watchmaker, a deconstruction of 50 Fathoms. This is from the original divers, and when you look at this, it looks very, very different. You have the weights on the balance wheel for very fine regulation, but you also have a regulator for regulating this the spring. Again, this is a spring made of transitional metals. And the other parts are, you can see the crown wheel, the ratchet wheel. Ratchet wheels right over the barrel. The thing about it is, the reason I'm pointing this out is that none of these things are either visible, and as far as the regulations concerned, a regulator, there's no regulator that you can do. You can't touch it in the System 51. But this is what's in the original, and I think a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, why not call it something else? Why not call it the, I don't know, Davy Jones locker? This is not a 50 fathoms. It has a dial that looks like 50 fathoms, but that's about it. And plus the fact that it does have a mechanical movement. Now, it also has something that the Blancpain 50 fathoms doesn't have, and that's a high price. So instead of paying several $1,000s, $400, and then you have a lot of choices. I don't know. I've been very tempted to get one of these. Just the ocean of storms. Somehow that I find that appealing. Okay. So anyway, I don't see this as Blancpain, and I think there may be some tension there if somebody says, oh, what kind of watch do you have? I say, well, I have a Blancpain 50 fathoms, and they pull out one of these. They would not be lying about it. They'd simply be showing off a different one. On the other hand, if you're some guy who's, you don't have a lot of money for watches, but you got kids you're taking care of, or you're working your way through school, or you just don't have any kind of income for the kind of prices that are on these watches. This might be something really fun to do. Okay, now the next thing I want to talk about is the MoonSwatch. Okay, this is an Omega, and if you look at the Mission to the Moon model, $270, and you look at it, and it's got all of the hands, tachometer scale, and everything looks like the MoonWatch, which is, again, those things I think start around $5,000 or $6,000, who knows? But these are $270. The movement is a quartz movement, which is not a mechanical movement at all. I don't think they had any pictures of the movement. They did of the System 51, but not of the MoonSwatch moonwatch. Okay, so they have the names of these after different missions. The Mission to Moon is the one that looks like the original MoonWatch, and the other ones have different characteristics to them. The one next to it is Mission to the Sun. And it's yellow with white straps. That's sort of cool. It's a chronograph, if you like chronographs, and sort of a fun watch, colors and so forth. Now, what they have that I think is very cool is that they have all of the different planets in our solar system, including the dwarf planet Pluto, who I think was very badly treated by the naming people. Okay, here it's starting with the planet closest to the sun, Mercury. Each one has a different color, and on the back they got a little picture of the planet, which is another interesting feature. I'll show that to you in a second. Now, one of the funniest things they have is Mission to Venus. There was a book written years ago called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, or it was called Women Are From Venus and Men Are From Mars. Anyway, so it's very feminine color in pink, and maybe that was intentional. Someone says, hey, that'd be cool as a woman, or somebody just likes that color. But anyway, that I thought was sort of an interesting little note there. Moving on. Now they have one called Mission to Earth, and I'm not sure exactly what they were thinking, because it's sort of on Earth, but okay, fine. And they have a sort of a light green case with it, and the black bezel, and the rest of it looks very much like the original, or close to the original MoonWatch. Now the Mission to Mars is a good deal different. The hands are very different. It has a red the red planet. Has a red case to it with a white bezel. Uh, $270. That's the great thing about these. They're all $270. Okay, moving right along. After Mars comes Jupiter. On the left is the Jupiter watch. It's our mission to Jupiter. And just below it there, I put in a little picture of the what's on the back of the watch. You can see there's a little picture of the planet, little 3D indent they have, and you can see the big red eye off to the upper right, up around 2 o'clock on it. Sort of a cool thing. Next to that is mission to Saturn, and what they did is that they put a ring around the small seconds at 6 o'clock. The rest, though, is pretty much like the rest of the whole series of the watches. They have then going on to mission to Uranus. I don't know how Uranus came up with that color scheme, but okay, maybe it's more of that color than I realized. Mission to Neptune. Neptune is a very sea color, I think. Neptune of the ocean. And then finally, mission to Pluto, which is the dwarf planet, I've been told. It's funny, I like the color combination on Pluto the best of all of them. Okay, now they have these two more that are really interesting. They're more expensive. The one on the left is called the Super Blue Moonphase. And in August 2024, today is 2025, January 1st. So it's just a couple months ago that they had what was called the Super Blue Moon. And they have something on the watch when there's a super blue moon. It turns this spooky color somehow. And the next one is in January to March of 2037. So it's they figure roughly every 10 years they have the super blue moon. I don't know if somebody wants to get one and say, hey, 10 years from now, actually be 12 years from 2025, you got another, you can see this spooky blue moon come up. This one is 310, and it has essentially includes, looks like a southern northern hemisphere moon phase. Now they have another one, similar but different, called Earth phase. And this one I think is really neat. They have, from the moon, you can see the Earth rise instead of the moon because you're on the moon and the perspective. And so they show up at 10 o'clock, they have a Earth rise. And then over at between about 2 and 3, they have the typical moon phase. These are $325. These are a little more expensive. All of the other ones were $270, but these two are a little more expensive. Now, I guess since they're all quartz, to me there's not much to see, unless you're a quartz fan, but which I'm not. But here again, you have this famous watch. And the question is well, what do you do? I mean, is this okay? I mean, the Speedmaster, MoonWatch are synonymous. And here you have something called the Omega Swatch MoonSwatch. I don't know. I mean, as a collector, these are sort of cool. Hey, if you got, one $270 on a beer bed or something, and looking for some way to blow it. Something like this might be fun to have. I'm not quite. It's not something. It's just sort of almost an artifact of something that was done by Swatch. I don't see Omega saying, "Hey, let's try this." Long ago, once upon a time, Omega and Tissot were owned, I think, by the same company, and they said, "Okay, Omega is going to be the expensive one, and Tissot is going to be the economical one." And it's been pretty much still that way, and then was bought by Swatch, and they sort of kept that relationship. and one of the, when in '69, when they went to the moon and landed on the moon, the watch they took with them was a version of the Speedmaster. Okay, so is this like a pretend Speedmaster, or I'm not sure how you'd see it. I'm not a Speedmaster owner. I'm not an Omega owner. I like both Omega and I like Blancpain. Not with the silicone hairsprings. I gotta say that, but I do like them. I mean, they're for lots of reasons. But these are different kinds of animals, and I'm really interested to find out, what do you think of these guys? Do you think this was a good move by Swatch, or do you think this was something? Well, why not call them something else, and knock off $100 because you're getting pretty much the same thing? Let me know what you think. This is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders with Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection.